Hello, you, my artist friend. I want to invite you today to commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans. That's Proverbs 16, verse 3. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this today because I have seen repeatedly in my life that when I commit what I do to the Lord, He establishes His plans for me, which are so much more magnificent and beautiful and deeply satisfying and rewarding in ways that my own plans just pale in comparison. And this is true in my creative life, with my songwriting, but it's true in every area of my life. So I want to invite you to commit your creative work to God. And this takes courage. This takes faith, especially if you're new in your walk with God and you are in the process of testing out His principles, testing out His character, discovering how trustworthy He is. But the good news is it only takes a small amount of faith. The Bible says faith the size of a mustard seed to walk with God, to be in relationship with Him, to receive the bounty and the blessing, the freedom, the sanctification that we get through relationship with God. So then the question is, well, how do we do this? How do we commit what we're doing to God? And commit just means to give over to Him, to dedicate to Him, to offer it up to Him. And so we can do this with simple prayer. We can just sit with whatever task we have in front of us and say, Lord, I commit this to you. This is for you. This is in obedience to you. This is in honor of the gift that you have given me, this talent. I give it over to you, and I lovingly and joyfully and with great enthusiasm, I await in eager expectation what your plans are for this thing, what your plans are for me. So that first part of the passage of committing to Him, whatever you do, requires a leap of faith. The second part of that passage might be even more challenging. That He will establish our plans, not challenging for Him, challenging for us. Because our ego so much wants to be in control. We want to run the show. Perhaps we've taken so many years to develop clarity about what it is we want to do with our creative work. Maybe it's taken us years to even realize that our art is the primary thing that we want to be focusing our life on. And we have dreams and we have visions. And it can be really hard to begin the process of letting go control, letting go of my plans, of what I think I need to do and what I think the next step is and what I want with this project, or how I want my song to go if I'm wrestling with a song that I'm writing. It's so easy for me to slip into a place of trying to force solutions. And so it takes active, conscious humility to let go of the reins and to be willing to receive God's plans, to listen for His right direction that He's going to give me to guide me in the direction of His plans for my life and for my creative work. And this process takes practice. I have been doing it for many years now, incrementally. And every time I do it, and I turn over a small thing in my life, it could be a small task, it could be something going on in a relationship, it could be my creative work. Whatever it is, when I turn it over, I begin to experience what God can do for me and through me and with me that is so much more beautiful than what I had originally planned for myself. See, the thing is, God knows what troubles we are facing and what troubles are down the road that we don't know about yet. When we make our plans, there's only so much that we can kind of think might happen going down the road that we need to prepare for, but God knows it all. He knows the internal troubles that we may have, limitations like anxiety, fearful thinking, negative thinking, poverty mindset, a critical mind, perhaps from words that somebody spoke over you in your childhood, negative words that somebody spoke over you that you have taken on subconsciously, and you may not even know that it's there. You may not even know that it's deep in the subterranean ground of your consciousness and it's hindering your creative craft. But God knows. And as part of his plans for you and for your art, he can address those inner troubles. He can free you from the bondages inside of your consciousness and in your spirit. So he knows the internal troubles and how to address them. He also can take care of the external troubles. He knows what's on the road ahead for you. He knows what's going on in the world around you, your immediate, intimate world of your own family and friends and community. And obviously, he also knows what's going on in the greater world and all of the things that impact your life externally. And he can take care of those troubles too. His plans can protect you, guide you, carve a way through the world for you so that you are not having to battle on your own and you're not blindsided by things that you didn't see coming that God knew was coming. So I want to tell you a story that exemplifies this verse and shares with you what God can do that's so much greater than what I had planned for myself. Years ago, when I was early in my walk with God, I was looking for a job as a nanny. I was a songwriter, I was a musician, I was doing all of that, but I needed a day job. And I had just finished a contract with one family as a nanny, and I started looking for something else. And so I did all the things that we do. I brushed up my resume and I started asking around in the community to see if there were any families I already knew that might need help. And I also went online to some, caretaker website type things and put up my profile on there and reached out to some families through those websites. And I think it was up to 2 months or something like that, just searching and putting out feelers and making calls and working really hard and doing everything that I could do to find the next day job. And I got zero invitations for an interview. And finally, it occurred to me that maybe I needed to commit this thing to God. And because I was new in my walk with God, it really felt almost like a scientific experiment. I was like, what would happen if I give this thing over to God and wait and take my hands off it for a period of time and just invite him in and see what his plans are for me? And so that's what I did. And I said, okay, God, because I'm new at this thing of committing things to you, I'm just going to say, let's do a 2-week period. That was kind of all that my anxiety could handle. It was like, okay, for 2 weeks, I'm going to take my hands off all of this. I'm not going to call anybody. I'm not going to email any more people. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to pray and listen and wait to see what your plans are for me. So I did that. Well, days and days went by, and towards the end of that 2-week period, I was thinking, okay, I don't think I've heard anything. And then I got invited to a friend's party. She was having a housewarming party, and I don't typically go out to a lot of parties. I'm an introvert. I prefer kind of one-on-one communication. But I really loved this friend. I was really excited for her that she'd found a beautiful place to live and beautiful roommates to live with. And so I felt in my spirit like, I need to go. And I heard in my spirit an urging, just go, just go. And I thought, okay, I will drive all the way across Los Angeles in the traffic to go support this friend and see, what is it that I can give at this party? How can I be of service? So I drove across town, got to the party. It was beautiful. And I was chatting with someone I had never met before, one of my friend's new roommates. And this lovely lady, she said to me, "Oh, you're Megan's friend, and I've heard about you. You're the musician, right? You're the songwriter, but don't you also work with children? Aren't you a nanny too?" And I just thought, oh my gosh, here it comes, here it comes. And again, I had promised to myself and God that I was not going to initiate this topic with anybody at the party. I just thought, I'm just going to go and see what happens. Sure enough, the roommate initiated the topic. And so I said, yes, I also nanny. And she said, "By any chance, are you available? Because a dear, dear friend of mine has been looking for a nanny for her new infant baby boy. And she's just not had any luck with the people that she's been interviewing. And I know how your friend Megan speaks so highly of you, and I would love to put you in touch with my friend who's got the little boy." And so I said, that would be great. Yes, please. Here's my phone number and so forth. So I went for the interview. It was a hit. We got along really, really well. This job was 5 minutes from where I lived. It was the highest salary of any of the nanny jobs that I'd had so far, like way above. But the good stuff goes even beyond that. God didn't just want me to have a day job. He wanted so much more for me. And so what ended up happening is that employer and I became really good friends. And she fell in love with my music, and she became a huge supporter of my music. She actually held in her beautiful home in Los Angeles my album release party in 2017, which was just exquisite. It was so beautiful. And she also hired me to perform at her son's birthday party one year, which was great. And it exposed me to other families with kids who became interested in working with me musically, because I also did music with children. And so then I started a group in LA called Music and Play. And it was for infants through to age 2. And the parents would obviously be there with their kids, and we would sing songs and play. And it was like a free play situation. It was fantastic. And this employer of mine was a huge supporter of that. So she also attended those classes. It just blossomed, and it continued from there. So eventually my husband and I moved to Tennessee. And during the pandemic, when we were kind of scrambling to reorient what we were doing, because of course, all of our shows, all of our gigs got canceled, and we were starting to figure out how to work from home, I decided, you know what? All these parents out there are at home with their kids. Like, all the kids are home from school, they're home from preschool, from daycare, and people are, they're starting to go a bit stir crazy. Everybody's stuck indoors. What can I do to help that situation? So I decided to offer online shows for kids and also to release a children's album of music. Well, my friend / employer from Los Angeles wanted to support all of this. So she invested in me and my husband's music business, and she also was one of the people who funded the children's album that I released in 2020. And it's just been such an incredible journey. And she is somebody she's one of a few friends in my life who is a continual searcher for truth, for growth, for maturity, for opening up her mind to new ideas, to challenging long-held beliefs, and to stepping out in courage in her life. She's always learning new skills. She's always stepping beyond her comfort zone to do something new that's going to blossom her as a person, enable her to live more fully in her calling, but also to bless her son, to bless him, and to make his life richer and more improved. And so having a friend like that in my life has impacted me in ways and levels of the depth of my being that are so much better than the plan I had for me, which was I just need a day job. And that was such a good example to me of what happens when I commit something to God, and something that at the time didn't feel related to my music. Committing my search for a job as a nanny, committing that to God, did not feel like it was going to have anything to do with my real calling, which is songwriting. But God found a way. God knew the way. God had the plan that would allow it to be relevant to my calling, to allow it to bless me profoundly on all these layers of my being. So I want to encourage you, if you're new in your walk with God, test out his principles. See what happens. Start with something small, something that feels that you can encourage yourself to kind of part with it and let go of the reins and give it to God. And see what he does with it. And listen for his cues. When you let go of it, give it a time period if you want to, like I did. My anxiety could only handle those two weeks. Give it a time period and just say, Lord, I'm going to give this over to you for X number of days, X number of weeks. And I'm going to focus on my time with you. I'm going to focus on prayer and meditation. I'm going to explore your word and see what promises do you make to your children about how you care for them. That's what I'm going to focus my heart and mind on. And then I'm going to listen in the spirit to hear if you're giving me cues. And then go ahead and participate in the stream of life, right? Because the reality is if I had not gone to that party, I would have missed that particular cue. Now, God can reroute us. If I had missed that cue, he would have found another way to get through to me. But we have to be out in the stream of life, listening in the spirit, and he will guide us. So have a go, try it out, test out his principle, and be amazed. God bless you, my friend. I will see you next time.